Over here, you got Big Boi, the Aquarius, half of the group.
Yeah.
And on this side, you got André 3000, the Gemini of the group. Y'all know what it is.
Before Outkast exploded in the 90s, becoming one of the biggest hip-hop groups of all time, with 5 multi-platinum albums and 6 Grammy Awards.
Our first album was Stankonia. Stankonia is not Outkast's first album due to history.
Before the duo put dirty South Atlanta rap on the map with over 25 million records sold and a combined net worth of 85 million. Before Outkast made Jay-Z's cut of the 15 other artists that deserved to join him in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Growing up, André was an only child living in an Atlanta ghetto who was bussed out of town attending school with well-to-do white kids. As for Big Boi, well, he was a street-smart entrepreneur who shared a small house with 50 other family members. It's pretty cramped. When the two teamed up in high school, they formed Outkast when they were just 16 years young, but back then their original names were Black Dog and Black Wolf, and together they were known as 2 Shades Deep. Hooking up with other local artists, they worked day and night on their music in a makeshift studio known as The Dungeon. They quickly became so obsessed that they decided to stop attending school to pour all their time and energy into making music. They would have a hit single in just 2 years, launching a career that would see the duo topping the charts for more than a decade, and Atlanta dominating hip-hop for years to come. Also, fun fact, that track Miss Jackson, well, that was written about Erykah Badu's mom. What's going on, guys? My name's Michael McCrudden, documenting the life of Outkast prior to fame, here for you on Before They're Famous. We've covered a ton of other rap icons here in the past, but there's tons more to do, so let us know, as always, who's next in the comments down below.
Us as the people, you know what I'm saying, and that's daily, every day, Outkast, since you born.
Antoine Andre Patton was born on February 1st, 1975 in Savannah, Georgia. His mother had him when she was 15 years young and popped out 4 more siblings after. Unfortunately, his dad went off to the military while they were still young, so his teen mom turned to her extended family for help. Soon 50 Pattons were packed into a 3-bedroom bungalow and took turns sharing everything from toothbrushes to Nike shoes. Antoine was a businessman from the start and made his money by hosting candy parties for kids on the block. Kinda like what happens on Halloween, but he was charging money for the candy. Pretty smart.
You wanna get away? You wanna get away? Honey, you're pregnant and your man is not going away.
By his early teens, Antoine was a drug-dealing straight-A student who also wanted to pursue rapping. When he turned 16, he finally asked his aunt in Atlanta if he could come live with her to get his career going. She agreed as long as he kept his grades up in school. It was in 1991 during a visit to the Lenox Square shopping mall that he would meet another 16-year-old aspiring rapper. Andre Loren Benjamin was born on May 27, 1975 in Atlanta, Georgia. His parents never married but moved in together to try and make things work after Andre was born. Sadly, the setup didn't last long, mostly because Andre's dad was fooling around with another woman and then bringing them back to the apartment for all to see. Dad, get a room, like your own. With only $400 in her pocket, Dre's mom moved to the projects, but didn't want her young boy to follow in the footsteps of the pimps and drug dealers that surrounded them. Luckily, the Atlanta public school system had a new program called Minority to Majority, where they'd bus kids from poor neighborhoods across town to schools where the grasses were a little greener. And by greener, I mean whiter. Andre spent his teen years hanging out with skaters and rich kids. Soon their lifestyle started to rub off on him, and he'd come back to the hood wearing preppy suits and bright colored pants. But when this fashionista hit high school, he started to rebel, stealing clothes at a laundromat and playing pranks on his teachers. He was slowly turning into a thug, and mom wasn't having any of it. She sent him to live with his father, hoping it would set him straight. After meeting at Lenox Square, Andre and Big Boi discovered that they had a whole lot in common. They had similar taste in music, listening to A Tribe Called Quest, Hieroglyphics, and Das EFX. They also discovered that they were both attending Tri-Cities High, a specialized art school, and the two boys, well, then they decided to beef one another. They became rivals at first, rap battling in the school's cafeteria, but soon their flows started to click. With Big Boi's hard street lines and Dre's more emotional observations, the two became East Point royalty. Andre even taught Antoine how to roll his first joint, and the two worked for some time at a shoe store together. For a short period of time, there was another local artist who they considered including in their group, no other than CeeLo Green. But today you may know him as Gnarly Davidson. Find out more about CeeLo Green or and Harley Davidson in that costume in our After Their Famous video. André 3000 and Big Boi were going under the monikers Big Wolf and Big Dog, and together as 2 Shades Deep. Then they switched it to the Misfits, but they found out both those names were already taken, so they switched to Outkast. As fate would have it, Outkast bumped into the mastermind producers behind TLC called Organized Noise Productions. Just as they were looking to add 2 young rappers to the roster, they were so blown away with the duo's tag team freestyling and signed them on the spot and got them to start recording what they called In Their Dungeon. Most people you meet on the street who are like, come to my dungeon, you shouldn't go with. But this dungeon was their mom's basement, which doubled as a recording studio. And they were safe.
So we saw young brothers like Big Boi and Dre. They came to us, you know what I'm saying, and they was like, they had skill, they like, we want a bus.
The teens spent all day working at the studio. They would fall asleep on the floor, then wake up the next day and do it all over again. Soon they were missing class for their music, and André dropped out in the junior year. But when Auntie saw Big Boi's grades start to slip, she threatened to ship him back to the countryside. And you don't get a guy who's hustling to go back there. There's not a lot of hustling you can do. They also had an early setback having auditioned for L.A. Reid, who thought that they lacked star power. The boys were defeated but doubled down on their ambitions and were able to pull it all together. By the time graduation came, the two had molded themselves into incredible artists, and Big Boi graduated with a 3.68 grade point average. André would soon after go on to get his GED. It was then in 1993 that Outkast released their first single, Players Ball. The track shot to #1 on the rap chart and held the spot for an incredible 6 weeks. Their music impressed established stars like Puff Daddy, and the boys opened for Biggie to show. When their debut album, Southern Playlistic Cadillac Music, finally hit the shelves a few months later, it shot up to the top 20 chart and was certified platinum by the end of the year. 4 more platinum albums would follow between 1996 and 2003, all of which hitting #1 or 2 on the Billboard 200. And they got their first #1 single on Billboard's Hot 100 in 2000 with Miss Jackson. I was totally one of those white kids who bought this album because of this track. 2 more #1s came in 2003 with The Way You Move featuring Sleepy Brown and, of course, Hey Ya. In part to Outkast, there was an alternative to the East and West Coast scenes, and Southern rap was slowly becoming a force of its own. And Outkast, well, they became a team that many local artists would look up to for their path to fame and fortune, because the guys really crushed it in the rap industry. And everyone really respects them, especially André. But don't say that in front of Big Boi. Why did I mess up this video? As for the rest of the story, well, you know it, or I could continue it in After Their Famous video. You gotta let me know if that's something you want me to do. My name is Mike McCredden, we make all sorts of celebrity bios. Be sure to browse around, check out these other 2, hit subscribe, we'll see you guys in the next video. Boom!